Success Formula with me, Lucy Parsons. Welcome to today's show. Today we're talking about the right mindset for Oxbridge applications. Now, not everybody who listens to this podcast or reads my blog or my emails is interested in Oxbridge, because it is definitely not the right option for everybody. But there is a significant proportion of people who are interested in this, and I think this will probably be my only blog or podcast this year around the subject of Oxbridge. So if it's not for you, please just be patient with this. If it is for you and you want more information, you can see a large number of blogs and podcasts that I've done over the last few years. If you go to lifemoreextraordinary.com/get-into-Oxbridge. Okay, let's get on with today's show. So what is the right mindset when you're applying to Oxbridge? With only about 20% of Cambridge applicants and 16% of Oxford applicants getting a place, it's important that you go into the process with a healthy attitude so that you can get the most out of the experience, whatever the outcome. In today's episode, you'll discover 3 mindsets that you want to avoid when you're applying to Oxbridge, and the right and healthy mindset for Oxbridge applications. So firstly, let's talk about those 3 mindsets you want to avoid when you're applying to Oxbridge. The first of which is needing it too much. I often come across students who have set their heart on studying at either Oxford or Cambridge at a young age. This is what happened to me. When I was 9 years old, I visited Cambridge, and walking around the great court of Trinity College, I decided that I wanted to study there, and I made it my business over the next 9 years to make that happen. The trouble is, people who develop this ambition at a young age often end up building their identities around this goal. And this is a very dangerous thing to do when, at best, you've got a 1 in 5 chance of achieving it. And if you have built your identity around being someone who goes to Oxford or Cambridge, or someone who went there, and you don't get in, it's absolutely devastating. I can remember when I was going through the Cambridge application process, we'd been told that if we hadn't heard by a certain date, then we hadn't got a place. And I heard nothing on this date, and it came and went. And it was like the bottom had dropped out of my world when that happened. Thankfully for me, the next day, Newnham College phoned and they said, we'd like to offer Lucy a place. And so the bottom came back into my world, if you like, and the future that I wanted for myself became true. But this is not at all the case for every student, and it's become much less likely over the years since I applied that any applicant will get a place. The truth is, there are many excellent universities out there that will be just as fulfilling for any prospective Oxbridge student to study at. They may not all have pretty architecture, some certainly do though, but pretty buildings aren't actually what university study is all about. And if they're the reason you want to study at Oxbridge, you need to reassess your motivations, because something as flimsy as wanting to study there because of what it looks like will soon be sniffed out in the application process. Okay, the second mindset that is very unhelpful and should be avoided is not believing that Oxbridge is for you. There are many people who stand a very good chance of being offered a place at Oxbridge because they have the necessary grades and intellectual flexibility, but have mentally ruled themselves out of applying or going for whatever reason. So maybe you think you're not rich enough, you're not posh enough, your skin's the wrong colour, you've got the wrong accent, you went to the wrong kind of school, or any variation on the above, or maybe even you're just thinking you're not clever enough. The reality is there has never been a better time to apply to Oxbridge if you're not a white, male, rich, privately educated person with a plummy accent. Due to the political pressure being put on both Oxford and Cambridge, they are working harder than ever to find the students from deprived areas and comprehensive schools who are more than worthy of a place. Even 20 years ago, when I was there, my group of close friends all went to state schools, bar one of us. Oxbridge students have certainly moved on from the Brideshead Revisited stereotypes of decades ago. If you're predicted A's and A stars in your A-levels, you come from a less privileged area and attend a comprehensive school, there's never been a better time to get a place or fit in when you get there. Don't let outdated stereotypes or inverted snobbery get in your way. Okay, the third mindset that you should avoid if you're applying to Oxbridge is thinking that it's your birthright. So this is the absolute opposite of the previous one, where you might have imposter syndrome, thinking you're not clever enough, posh enough, rich enough, blah, blah, blah. I've never actually met anyone in person who told me in so many words that they believed it was their birthright to go to Oxbridge. But I've met people who have implied this. One example was a mother who emailed me after her child was rejected from Oxford. The whole family was in pieces because an older sibling was at Oxford, and if my memory serves me correctly, one of the parents had been. It sounded like they'd taken a fairly lazy approach to the application process because they believed he'd get a place. They'd been told he was Oxbridge material throughout his school years. The trouble was he was rejected, and this precipitated an identity crisis for the student and a lot of self-flagellation by the parents because they could see they hadn't approached the application with enough rigour. Another example was a student who went to a high-profile school who sent a lot of students to Oxbridge. The student in question came to me after he'd been rejected by Oxford. He'd got a B in one of his A-levels, and he'd also been rejected by all the other universities he had applied to. Again, he was having an identity crisis because he'd been schooled in an environment where all the students had been taught to expect to get into Oxbridge, and this particular individual was now left behind with no university to go to when all their peers were moving on to do the kind of courses they wanted to do at the universities they wanted to attend. Let me be very clear. Oxbridge is no one's birthright. No one deserves it, in inverted commas. You have to work really hard to even be able to consider applying. You have to treat the application process with a massive amount of respect. And if you get a place, you see that as a privilege, not something that was due to you. Many students who are more than capable of getting a place and have the grades and experience to get a place won't get one simply because of the quantity of other candidates applying and the exceptional quality of their applications. You can read more about what you're up against in another blog that I wrote called Why We Need to Think Differently About Applying to Oxbridge, and that's linked to in today's show notes, which you will find at lifemoreextraordinary.com/Oxbridge mindset. So we've talked about those 3 wrong mindsets for the Oxbridge application process. Let's now talk about the right mindset for Oxbridge applications. So, as my head coach, Helen Chaplin, says, you have to want it, not need it. This means that you're not going to define yourself by your success or failure to get in. It means that you're going to be realistic about your chances of getting in. It means you're going to treat the application process with respect and take nothing for granted. It also means that you're going to seriously consider which other universities you're going to apply to, knowing that it's more than likely that you'll be going to one of them rather than Oxford or Cambridge. Finally, it means that you're going to be incredibly proud of yourself for being sufficiently excellent to be in a position where applying gives you a better chance of success than looking for a needle in a haystack. Because, seriously, if you're good enough to apply, you're an incredible student. So just remember that you have to want it, not need it, when you're applying to Oxbridge. So if you need or would like more help with your Oxbridge application, you can check out the other articles on my website on the Get Into Oxbridge page. So that is at lifemoreextraordinary.com/get-into-Oxbridge. And if you need help with your Oxbridge application mindset, check out how we can help you with our Oxbridge preparation coaching. We do Oxbridge interview mindset coaching with our students every year to help them perform their best and get the most out of their Oxbridge interview. I remember one young lady last year who was applying to Cambridge to study natural sciences, and she was so scared about the interview. And I did a 1-hour session with her about interview mindset, and she was so much more relaxed and so much happier about going into the interview situation as a result, and she was offered a place. Now, I'm not giving myself all the credit for that, only a tiny bit, because she was an incredible student, and I could tell when I met her that she was the right kind of student to get a place. But it was a pleasure to be given the privilege of helping to ease her mind about the interview process, and because she was more relaxed and open about what the interview process actually meant, I'm sure she performed better. If you're interested in our Oxbridge preparation coaching, there's a link to that in today's show notes, which you can find at lifemoreextraordinary.com/Oxbridge mindset. Or if you just want help with your personal statement, and we do help a lot of students with their Oxbridge personal statements, check out personalstatementmasterclass.co.uk, and we've helped many students applying for many different degrees at Oxford and Cambridge with the masterclass, and then a one-to-one follow-up session afterwards to help them to perfect and refine their personal statement. Okay, I really hope that's helped you have a more positive attitude towards the Oxbridge application process. Remember, want it, don't need it. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day, and goodbye.